Hey guys, Tech Trainer Josh here, and today I have a very exciting video for you all. We are going to be comparing Intel to AMD. Yes, we are going to be comparing AMD's highest end CPU, the FX 9590, to Intel's Skylake processor, the i5-6600K. I am in a position right now where I need to upgrade my 9590 AMD to something Intel related, which I'll explain more on that in a little bit. But yes, we are going to be taking a look at, well, what are the benefits? How is Intel better than AMD? Is it better than AMD? Well, we'll take a look at the benchmarks, we'll compare everything, take everything into account, and, well, who will win this match in the CPU wars? Stay tuned. So first things first, we're going to take a look at the FX 9590. Now, despite the CPU being AMD's best offering in the CPU market, it does fall short in many ways. Now, given it's a 4.7 gigahertz clock speed with 8 cores, holy crap, you'd think that this thing is a monster, but will this really hold true? Well, for starters, this chip doesn't really have 8 real physical cores. They are 4 physical cores divided to be 2 logical cores each. In addition, its single core performance is subpar compared to Intel's offering. The Core i5-6600K comes at a similar price at the filming of this video, coming within a $30 to $40 range of the FX 9590 in most places. Now, this chip comes clocked at 3.5 gigahertz, but it does come with a turbo boost of up to 3.9 gigahertz when it is needed and as long as the temperatures are okay. This chip also contains only 4 cores and does not come with hyper-threading like its older brother, the 6700K. So the question really is, what will outperform? 8 cores of single-core performance that's mediocre, or 4 cores of great single-core performance? Well, we'll have the benchmarks answer that for us in a bit. For now, let's just take a look at the parts that I used for this build and just my rationale for upgrading to Skylake and all that type of nonsense. So, first and foremost, I upgraded because of Intel 750 series SSD. As you saw in another video that I made unboxing it, well, I saw it on Black Friday for $250, and I was like, damn, alright, I can't resist that. I gotta pick this SSD up and throw it in my system, and after burning a large hole in my pocket, well, I found out that it's not compatible with the FX 9590 system that I have, so that hurt a lot. That really did. So I didn't want this freaking PCIe SSD sitting on my shelf behind me, mocking me the whole time. I decided, well, you know what? I'm gonna upgrade to Intel. I'm gonna upgrade and make it damn worth it and damn awesome and go to their Skylake generation of CPUs. And after doing some thorough research, I found out that, hey, this 6600K is my best bet for the CPU. It is similarly priced, as I mentioned, to the FX 9590, but we will see today if it is worth it, as I mentioned. So, more about the parts now. I would like to mention that, well, hey, I'm not much of a hardcore gamer. I'm a content creator, but yes, I'm not a hardcore gamer. I do play some games, Grand Theft Auto, good one. But yes, I do not have the best graphics card in the world. I do have the Sapphire R9 380 Nitro card, which is like a $200 card. And just the way everything fell into place with the great deal and upgrading to Intel and everything, that's how I ended up with a CPU and SSD individually being worth more than my GPU. So as for other parts in the system, I chose MSI's Z170A Crate gaming motherboard, which I thought was a solid pick due to its overclocking capabilities, great I/O, and a simple yet elegant color scheme, among other reasons. For memory, I went with some PMY DDR4 RAM, 2 sticks of 8 of that. That is at 2400 megahertz, which I got a hell of a deal on, so that's great. And that matches my blue case fan LEDs nicely with that little blue accent that it has. For other parts that stayed the same, the power supply is one of them. That is an Ultra 750 watt power supply. That should be fine. A huge case, which I love it, is from Thermaltake. That is a Core V71 case, and then a 360mm monster liquid cooling loop that can cool anything very nicely, including the 9590. That is the Water Cooling 3.0 Ultimate from Thermaltake. And lastly, in case anyone's interested, my AMD build was using the 990FX A UD3 motherboard from Gigabyte and four sticks of 4, yeah, a 4x4 kit of RAM. Those were rip jaws, and those were running at 1600 megahertz. Whew. Whew, okay, well, now that that's done, let's quickly talk about overclocking. Overclocking the FX 9590 leaves very little headroom, even with my cooling solution. I was only able to get a stable overclock of up to 4.8 gigahertz, and if I went any higher, my system would crash at random times. I likely got a chip that just doesn't overclock very well, so really it wasn't a temperature issue, it was just the chip. But even if I got to 5 gigahertz, the difference would be very small. As for the 6600K, man, this thing overclocks too easy. I was able to get this chip stable at 4.5 gigahertz without even going too high in the temperatures, as I was hitting only around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius max. I probably could have gotten it to 4.6 or 4.7 gigahertz stable. However, I didn't want to raise the voltage more than I did to make it stable, because then you're damaging the chip and that's just not good. I will have a more in-depth video on overclocking this chip soon, so stay tuned. Benchmarks! Yeah, woo! But first, I would like to note a few things. I know many people are going to comment saying that the Skylake build also has a new PCI SSD and DDR4 RAM, and oh my god, holy crap, it's craziness. But I won't be the first to say that this will be a negligible difference in our testing, because a lot of these are extremely CPU and GPU intensive, and those components won't really make a huge difference. Adobe Media Encoder, that test will probably have a little bit more of an edge on the DDR4 side, just because it uses a lot of RAM. But if you're buying a 6600K, you're going to get DDR4 RAM with it no matter what. So yeah, pretty much that's that. Anyway, I decided to run Cinebench, which is a synthetic benchmark that just runs a bunch of tests and renders an image only using the CPU. And also, among games, I did test Grand Theft Auto 5, Dirt 3, Rocket League, Dying Light, and 2 video renders in Adobe Media Encoder. I'm aware that some of these game choices can be a lot better. However, they're the most demanding games that I have, and I will be sure to try to improve this in the future. So with that being said, roll the benchmarks! So there you have it, a direct apples-to-apples comparison of the FX 9590 and the 6600K. Here are my thoughts on the benchmarks as we start to wrap things up. So let's start talking about the Cinebench test first. This was a very interesting test because it uses all cores of the CPU to make that image in the benchmark, which is, like I said, really interesting because it really shows how much multiple cores can make a difference. In this case, each core was used, like I said, to render an image. Now, after overclocking the 6600K, the 6600K with only 4 cores, 4 workers to work on the whole entire image, that was better than the 9590's 8 cores, which is crazy to think how 8 cores, 8 workers working on the same image. The 4 cores on the Intel still outperformed in something that is very, very heavily dependent on multiple cores. Now on to some of the games that we benchmarked. So, Grand Theft Auto 5 yielded some great improvements when we moved to 1080p, however at 1440p we only saw minor improvements, showing how much of a bottleneck my video card is in my system. The rest of these tests I did run at 1440p only, as you saw, because my monitor only goes up to 65 FPS, and if some of these games I ran at 1080p, it would surpass that mark probably by a lot, and it would really just give meaningless results, nothing really useful. So with that being said, Dirt 3 really only added an extra frame for moving to Intel and receiving no benefit from the overclock, while Rocket League showed a little bit more of a noticeable improvement. Dying Light, on the other hand, was a bit of a disaster, but once again, it just shows how much of a bottleneck my video card is, and with results decreasing as I overclocked and moved to Intel, well, this is definitely within the margin of error, and the same concept applies in some of the other benchmarks. Finally! Oh yes, finally! The insane difference in these CPUs lies in their ability to encode video. Holy crap, the test from Adobe Media Encoder blew me away. These games that we tested, they usually don't use 100% of the CPU, and not always at its full speed. Adobe Media Encoder, on the other hand, uses 100% of the CPU all the time, and at its full 4.5 gigahertz goodness that we have with our 6600K overclocked. If you're a content creator that uses programs like Adobe Media Encoder or Sony Vegas, Handbrake, Adobe Premiere Pro, or whatever program that you use to render or encode videos, you will notice a big time improvement in render times, as this nearly cut in half my video render times. Well, I guess that leads us into the conclusion pretty nicely. In addition to more compatibility with newer technology like my PCIe SSD, USB 3.1, DDR4 RAM, or whatever new technology you throw at this thing, the 6600K has a lot to offer, and in my opinion, is far superior to the FX 9590 at a similar price, as long as you overclock it. Get a good cooler, everybody. If you're a gamer that is looking to completely turn around their gaming experience, unless your current CPU is like under $100, this probably is not the CPU for you. On the other hand, if you're a content creator who frequently renders, compresses, converts, or whatever you do to your damn videos, well, you will see a noticeable and time-saving improvement. Now, the improvements aren't limiting to video encoding. Whatever tasks you do that are heavily dependent on the CPU, you will see improvements. However, video encoding was something that I do a lot, and it was easy for me to compare results for. And that just about wraps things up. Let me know what CPU you are running down in the comment section below, and tell me if you're impressed by the 6600K's performance compared to the FX 9590. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe if you are new. Peace.